In the time remaining, I want to briefly talk about Israel because it's part of this bill as well. You know, it's interesting the last couple of days, this freak out over something that Trump said about NATO. Everybody's running around freaking out, oh my God, he's going to get us out of NATO. They forget Trump was already president once, and he didn't pull us out. And in fact, he deployed extra troops to Poland. We increased our troop presence in Poland because Poland was contributing towards NATO. But put that aside for a moment. Because this whole notion of this theoretical Russia is going to invade countries because Trump is going to encourage them, all these people on television with all this silliness. Well, Israel's in a war right now. Israel's in a war right now, an existential war. Israel's enemies right now want to destroy Israel. They don't want to harm Israel. They don't want to defeat Israel military. They want to destroy Israel. They are in a war right now. And we have a president that's undermining Israel. Undermining. You say no. Okay. Here's the stuff we're now reading. I just want to go off this article from NBC, which is NBC, one of the most well-known conservative outlets in America, right? This is from them. President Joe Biden has been venting his frustration in private conversations with campaign donors over his inability to persuade Israel to change its military tactics in Gaza. He's been trying to get Israel to agree to a ceasefire, but Netanyahu is, quote, giving him hell. Netanyahu, quote, is impossible to deal with. He feels like this is enough, one of the people said of his views expressed by Biden. It has to stop. In some of his private conversations, his descriptions of dealing with Netanyahu were peppered with contemptuous references to Netanyahu as this guy. And at least 3 recent instances, Biden called Netanyahu an A something. I can't say it on the Senate floor, according to 3 people directly familiar with his comments. It goes on. He's grown steadily more frustrated with the rising Palestinian civilian death toll in Gaza. He took a sharper tone on Thursday, described Israel's military assault in Gaza as over the top. So I guess this bill is funding Israel's over-the-top effort to defeat a terrorist group that didn't just massacre over 1,000 Israelis, but is organizing principles the destruction of the Jewish state. Frustrations with Netanyahu have also not led to major policy shift, but his administration has begun to consider such options. 2 weeks ago, officials told NBC News that the administration was discussing delaying or slowing U.S. weapon sales to Israel as leverage to get Netanyahu to dial down Israeli military operations in Gaza. As leverage. So you're going to vote for a bill to give money to Israel so Biden can use it as leverage against our ally, Israel. This is an ally involved in a war right now. Not theoretical, not a campaign speech, right now. You're worried about undermining NATO, worry about undermining our ally, Israel, in a war right now, a real war. And it goes on. I mean, I could go on forever. They're drafting options for formally recognizing an independent Palestinian state, the so-called 2-state solution. How are you going to reach, that's the ideal outcome in a perfect world. In the real world, how are you going to have a 2-state solution with a groups whose goal is a 1-state solution? The Palestinian organizations, the PLO and Authority in the West Bank and Hamas and Gaza, they don't have a 2-state solution. They want a 1-state solution. Their 1-state solution is that from the river to the sea, there not be a single Jew. That's their solution. And you want to give them their own territory where they can launch more attacks to achieve this goal. I could go on, but all of this, how does this wind up in the press? This is a strategic leak. They put this out there to message their activist base, because there is an activist base within the Democratic coalition that is threatening to vote against Biden. We've seen these reports. That's why he sent the White House aides to go meet with anti-Semites, pro-Hamas, pro-Hezbollah activists in Michigan last week, people that claim that our government is controlled by Jewish money. That's who they met with. These are the people that are disrupting his speeches, calling him Genocide Joe. That's who he met with. And this is designed to try to appease them because they're threatening to vote against him. That's undermining an ally. That's happening real time right now. And all this talk about ceasefire. We can't have a ceasefire. Let me tell you how we can have a ceasefire. Hamas can surrender its weapons and it can release its hostages. But they won't. Hamas doesn't care how many Palestinian civilians die. In fact, they deliberately position military targets next to civilians so that civilians get killed. They want civilians to be killed. They steal the aid money. Has anyone wondered how much does it cost to build the tunnels that they have built under the ground in Gaza? Millions of dollars spent building tunnels, not building hospitals, not building schools, not building industries, not creating jobs for the people of Gaza, tunnels for their terrorists, so they could hide hostages, so they could hide weapons, so they can infiltrate and kill Jews in Israel. That's what they spend their money on. We're going to send them more of that money when this bill passes. That's what you're voting for. It's in there.